Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. Hope everyone is well in your part of the world. It's so good to be back with you on, I stream every Sunday and every Thursday. So I've had a 3-day break since our last stream, but I'm back now on Sunday. Really happy to be back with all of you. Already seeing some different people in my Instagram, and also hopefully get some more people on YouTube. Love to see people on different platforms. You can already see the chat starting to form here over my shoulder. So as you guys know, we always start with a global roll call. I love seeing where everybody is from. So please don't be shy. Just let me know the city, state, province, country that you're from. Would love to hear from you. You know, I love the community that we're building here. I see people helping each other in the chat, which is awesome. But I also do this because I want these streams to feel inclusive. I don't want anybody to feel like you have to be some great data scientist to join. You know, you can just be somebody who's starting out, or you're just an enthusiast in data science, or you're just curious. That's totally okay. Just go ahead and introduce yourself. Would love to hear from you. Love hearing from different people across the different platforms. But you know, keep in mind, that if you are watching me on multiple platforms, please only ask the question on one platform, because sometimes, you know, it's hard for me to track the different chats because everything's going quickly and I have so many screens up on my end. So please, you know, if you ask the question, I'm going to do my best to get to it, but please only ask it on one platform. But I'm seeing people already introduce themselves, and I'm not sure if I'm getting double replies on Instagram. It looks like my chat for some reason is picking up people twice on Instagram. I don't know why that is. Let me try closing out one of my chat windows on Instagram, maybe. Give me just a second here. All right, we'll see if that helps. But I was getting Instagram messages twice for some reason. But yeah, like I said, feel free to introduce yourself. I'm going to do the global roll call. I see people are asking, I'm seeing people ask questions in the chat already, and that's great. I'm going to get to the questions after we do the global roll call, okay? So if you're still joining us, feel free to, you know, let me introduce yourself, let me know where you're from, okay? So let me start picking up some of these. Siva, my good friend, it's always good to start with a regular here on this stream. So Siva, thank you so much. I know you're supported the streams in the past. Hello, Dennis. Always very happy to see you smile. Namaste from India. Well, thank you so much, Siva. Good to see you. Hope things are well in India. Harish Kulkarni says, I'm from India. What part of India? India is a big and diverse country. Everybody just says they're from India, but let me know what part. Shahzad Bangash, Shahzad from Islamabad, Pakistan. Wow. I love seeing the global data science community. So thank you so much for joining us from Pakistan. Sid Sergey. Sid, I think I've seen you on the streams before. So thank you so much for being here. Australia, Adelaide. Great, wonderful. I didn't quite make it out to Adelaide, but I did visit Sydney for the first time in 2022. I spent Christmas 2022 there. Beautiful country. Really had a great trip out there. So thanks for joining us. Mohsin Ansari, and Mohsin from Chicago. Mohsin, welcome back. I know you're a big supporter on YouTube, so good to see you on YouTube. It's always fun to see the different icons from the different platforms that people are joining in from. It took me a long time to get this chat working. I cannot tell you how excited I am that it works so well. All right. Let me see. Hey, Anjan bro. Hello from the UK. Wonderful. What part of the UK? Again, another big part of the world. You can't just say the UK. You got to be more specific. So let me know. Karthik is checking in from Bangalore, India. Welcome, Karthik. Hope you're well. One of the tech centers of India. Steve Ngwash is from Nairobi, Kenya. Welcome, Steve. Good to see you. Jacobs Z is from the UK. Harish says they are just starting out. I assume you mean just starting out in data science. That's totally good. You know, welcome. Hopefully you'll be able to learn a couple things. For people that are still new to data science, or you're in school, on my YouTube channel, I have a video. I believe it's called a Data Science Roadmap for Students. It is a video that I put together for students and sharing how I learned data science and how I would study it today. So feel free to check that out. That might be a good resource to get you started, maybe kind of guide you in some initial readings and things along those lines. But thanks for coming. Let's see. Hey, Anjan Bro says that they are information lead at NWG in the UK. What is NWG? Let me know what that's from. I don't recognize that. Abdo Lene is checking in from Morocco. Wonderful, beautiful country. I've spent a little bit of time in Morocco. A wonderful country. Welcome, Abdo. Good to see you here. Harish Karini says, please be on Instagram. I am on Instagram. In fact, Instagram is my largest platform. So let me know if you're having trouble seeing me there. But I am showing that I'm live on Instagram. I always keep my Instagram up on one of my monitors here. But yeah. Afri Siringo, hi, I'm Afri from Indonesia. Wonderful, welcome Afri. I went to Bali last summer, just about a year ago. I was there last August. Beautiful country. I'm really glad I got to spend some time there. Yeah, but welcome from Indonesia. Sabika Farouk. I hope I pronounced that right. Hi from Dubai. I was also in Dubai last August. Super hot. I was in Dubai on my way to Bali. Really glad I went. It was my first time there. But super hot. Oh my gosh, it was blazing hot. Even at the hotel, you know, I guess it gets so hot that the condensation builds up on the windows in most hotels. That was very unique because I lived in hot climates before. I live in the desert, but I'd never seen it where the condensation builds up like that in Dubai. That's crazy. Ajay Patro says hello again. Hey Ajay, I know you've been on the chats before. I can't remember where you're from though. Remind me though, Ajay. Let's see. My friend, Kevin Benny. Hey, how are you? Kevin Benny says, hey, Dennis. Good to see you, Kevin. Kevin from India. Last time I did confuse Kevin from being from Africa. That was my mistake. But yeah, good to see you, Kevin. Hope you're well. Eugene is checking in as a data analyst. I am from South Africa. Wonderful. I'd love to get out to South Africa sometime. I've never been out there. Wasted69 says, hello, sir. Hello, Wasted. Let us know where you're from. Relax with Raghav says, finishing up my master's in DS and machine learning. Natally from North India, Himachal Pradesh, living in Bengaluru. Welcome. I love that history. I love that concise history there. Thanks for the elevator pitch. Hope your studies are going well. Wasted69 says, planning for an MS from USA. Oh, okay, cool. I'm curious. Where are you going to look at that from? Well, actually, I guess I'm assuming it's a data science MS. Maybe you're doing some other masters. Let me know more about that. Okay, so hey, Anjan Bro says, I am from India, but currently living in Durham, UK. All right, cool. I can't say I know where Durham is. I've been to Western Europe plenty of times. I don't know exactly where Durham is. Ah, okay. So he also adds, it's Northumbrian Water Group. We provide wastewater and water management in northern and southern part of the UK. Very interesting. And are you using machine learning for that? Or you're doing some other sort of tech work for them? Very curious. Okay, so Raj, I'm going to come back to your question. Suraj says, welcome to Dakota, man. Sorry, my friend, I'm not sure I know that. And Mamoon checking in on YouTube says, hello, Dennis. Hello, Mamoon. We're doing our global roll call. For those of you that are joining late, feel free to let me know the city, state, province that you're from. And, you know, would love to hear from you as far as how global the data science community is. And you never know when you're going to meet somebody in the chat from your school or from your country or whatever. I love seeing people helping each other in the chat. So let us know. Oh, our good friend, Danny Ramona says, hello from Mexico. Hey, Danny, good to see you again. I know you've been a big supporter, so thank you so much for coming back. You know what? Actually, I just realized something. I just realized that there's a lot of questions coming through on the chat, so I'm going to get to the questions. But, you know, we got into the global roll call right away that I actually forgot to do the opening note. I always do an opening note while I wait for you guys to do the global roll call, but you guys were so fast today. So let me back up a little bit here. I always like to give you an opening note to start off, to kind of get everybody thinking about data science and all along those lines. And if you keep on going ahead and adding in your city, state, and country, I'm still seeing a few here, so please keep on coming back. But yeah, so while that keeps going on, my opening note is I want to talk about resumes. I've done a lot of hiring over my career, and I've read literally hundreds of resumes, maybe not quite thousands of resumes, but I've read hundreds of resumes. And I've done things like, I represented my company at like a career fair when you go to a college. And like when you go to those things, you come home with like 120 resumes, I think is the last one I did. It was like just you come home with a pile of resumes and things along those lines. And it got me thinking to some of like the most common tips that I would give someone, not from the HR perspective or from the automated resume things perspective, none of that, but just kind of for me as a hiring manager. When I get resumes, when my HR department says, here's some candidates that applied to your job, who do you want to interview? Couple things that I would advise you guys. One, never, ever, ever send your resume in a Word format, the doc or the docx format. Always use a PDF format. The reason you want to do that is because with PDF, you have the advantage of locking in your formatting and locking in your fonts. If you send out your Word resume and the person on the other end doesn't have your fonts or doesn't, has different formatting because, they use different page sizing in their country or on their computer, or they have different margin settings or whatever, your resume is not going to look as good. It's not going to look nowhere near what it looks like on your screen. Never ever send a docx file. Always PDF. That lets you put your best foot forward. And I know that resume systems allow the docx, or they tell you have the option. Never choose the docx, always PDF. Second thing, you're right below your contact information. Show me a list of your skills. Python, 2 years. HTML, 1 year. JavaScript, 5 years. Do it 3 columns across and as many lines as you need. But right from the very beginning, tell me about your skills. And then right below that, tell me about your projects, like almost like a mini portfolio section. And then tell me about your education and your work experience and things like that. But right from the very top, again, because I'm just reading these quickly, right? And the hiring manager is reading them quickly. So I want your tech skills and your projects, right? What do you know and what did you do with them? And then the third thing I'll advise you guys is, did I just forget my own third tip? Oh my gosh. What was the third item? There was one more item related to that. Oh my gosh, I was thinking about this morning and I'm blanking out right now. Oh yes, that's what it was. Okay. This may just be my own personal bias, but I can tell you that I've never checked anybody's GitHub. I've never really checked people's projects. I have checked people's articles. If you tell me, on your resume that you wrote like an article and you put it on LinkedIn or on Medium or on X, things like that, I have definitely checked those. But if you tell me, oh, I have, here's the link to my GitHub and here's my GitHub chart, I don't care about that. Plenty of companies don't really use GitHub, right? Or they use a different approach to source control. And also there's a lot of ways to game those charts, right? But if you tell me, hey, here's a link to my article, I am 100 times much more likely to click on that than I am to click on your GitHub. So keep that in mind, okay? And by the way, the reason I say the articles is because the article shows me the end product. It shows me that you're able to at least reach an end stage and, more importantly, draw conclusions from your work. That's super important, right? Because that's what we're paying you for when we hire you, right? We don't hire you to check in code. We hire you to produce results, right? So I've never checked GitHub, but I have checked plenty of LinkedIn and Medium articles, right? So if you have those, include the URL. Don't even bother including the GitHub. If it comes to including one or the other, definitely include the article. Okay? So I'll leave you with those stories. And if you guys have questions on them, feel free to let me know in the chat. I'm already seeing some questions around the resume. But yeah, So let me go back and start to see other people that have checked in, and then we'll go back and do questions. Dennis Green says hello from Kenya. Hello, Dennis. Good to see you. Suraj is checking in from the US. Welcome, Suraj. Mamoon Araksa says they are from Jordan. All right, very cool. Good to see you here, and it's good to see more people on YouTube. Love seeing that. Nikhil Sinaran says hello from Mauritius. Oh, very cool. That's a tiny island off the coast of Africa, if I remember right? I mean, I know it's an island nation, but welcome. Let me see if anybody else is checking in. Set Sid says hi from Romania, currently pursuing an MS and DS. Well, welcome. We'll get to your questions after this, Sid. Let me know if I forget it. Feel free to remind me in the chat, okay? See if anybody else. Okay. Great. So it looks like we have people who have checked in. If you're still joining us, feel free to share your city, state, and country. But let me scroll up to my chat and start answering some of the questions, okay? And I promise I'll try to get to as many questions as I can. I really hate leaving questions in the chat. Hi, sir. I need help in preparing topics for a quant analyst associate at Chase. Can you tell me which topics to prepare to crack the interview? It's a 0 to 2 experience role, by the way. My friends, we've been over this before. The goal is not to crack the interview, hack the data scientist questions. That's not the goal. The goal is to be a data scientist, okay? The best way to prepare for interviews is to be a data scientist. So go out, find your own projects, and work on them. Develop your own projects, your own ideas, your own code, your own conclusions on that code, and get those skills under you, right? That's the best way to walk in prepared into an interview. Because think of it this way. You crack the interview, now what? Now you got to show up on day one and do the work, right? Are you ready for that? Let's say you do fantastic on this interview. You manage to hack the interview. What then? They're going to offer you a job. You're going to show up in 2 weeks and they're going to say, all right, Mr. Quant, do it. Are you ready for that? Maybe, maybe not, right? Not if you're trying to crack the interview. So now is the time to start doing that work. And I shared this earlier in one of my posts. I was thinking about this when I was out walking the other day. I must have done like 50 EDAs before I even did one data scientist interview. Because I had this period in my life where I was honest with myself and I said, well, I really want this data science stuff, but I need to get more skills underneath my feet, right? And so I had this period where I just did nothing but work by myself. Nobody was paying me for this. I didn't have a client. I wasn't billing anybody. I didn't even have any resumes out. But I did about 50 EDAs before I even had one data scientist interview. And then with those EDAs, some I took into modeling, some I took into conclusions, and I would publish my results on a blog and things like that, right? But I did all of that with no payments, no promises of jobs, nothing, right? And that's how you crack the interview. Because by the time you do reach that interview, you would have like 5 or 6 projects to point to. You're confident in the code you can write because you know how to execute an EDA. You know how to take that into modeling, right? So these are all skills you got to develop. So I'm always really cautious when I hear about, cracking the interview. That's not the case, especially at a place like Chase. At Chase, you can't fake it till you make it at a place like Chase, right? I got plenty of friends that work there. I've worked in the banking and financial services industry for multiple years. There is no cracking the interview. You crack the interview by being a data scientist, by walking in there prepared. And I also say that because, these things, once you do them, once you put in the work, you put in the time, it comes across in your interview, right? You won't have to do anything special. It comes across in how you carry yourself, how you talk, your vocabulary, your perspective. They'll know this, right? I mean, you'll be at a place like Chase, you'll be interviewing with some pretty heavy duty guys as far as data science skills, right? They'll know. It'll come across. It'll come across when you're prepared, and it'll come across when you're not prepared, okay? All right, let me go to the next questions. So many diverse people today as I'm scrolling down through the locations. Love it. Welcome, everybody. Let's see. Let me keep on going down here. So Siraj says, can you tell a roadmap to get into data science in USA? Yeah, Siraj. So I mentioned earlier that I have a video on YouTube, the data science roadmap for students. It's one of the first videos I did because I get a lot of questions from students. So I decided to make a video where I could send everybody at first. So I share how I did it and kind of like updated it for 2024. You know, because obviously I keep up with the times and you have to make adjustments. But that's what I would advise you. Go to check out that video. It's one of my longest videos. You know, it's completely free. You know, I don't sell anything in there. I don't do pre-recorded content like that. And I also issue a coding challenge in that book, and I have yet to have anybody come back to me with that coding challenge, by the way. So there's an opportunity there. But yeah. So that's what I would recommend to you, especially if you're just starting out and you kind of just want general guidance. That's what that video aims to do. Okay. Nobody knows S asks, what are we going to do in today's class, sir? Well, you know, I try to keep these chats open. I really don't walk in here with an agenda. I have an idea of the opening note of what I want to talk about, but I don't really, you know, have an agenda for these. I mean, I love hearing where you guys are from, and then I love hearing your questions, and we can just go back and forth on the questions, you know. You're welcome to agree with me or disagree with me in the chats, and we can certainly go back and forth. That's part of working through a scientific process. But I'm willing to host these chats and just talk about whatever you guys like. You know, I have enough experience in data science world where I can feel comfortable answering most questions. But yeah, you know, I'm just here to share my experience. Unfortunately, the only really limitation I have on these chats is that they can only go for an hour because Instagram cuts me off at an hour. But otherwise, no agenda for today. I will be hosting more of the live classes. I did a live class on July 3rd. You can also find it on YouTube. We went for 2 hours in that class. That was a lot longer than I anticipated, but a lot of fun. I may do some of those in the future. I might be working on some ideas. I have some projects going on. But yeah, the agenda here is just to have some fellowship here with other data scientists, and we'll see where the conversation takes us, okay? All right, let me see. Silvery Freaks asks, what about impressions on an AI generated resume? Fail. If you can't take the time to prepare your own resume, why would I, as a hiring manager, want to invest time in it, right? That's kind of like the way I look at it, where, you know, you should be able to express yourself in your own resume. And you can always tell when the resumes are AI generated, right? So be careful with that. I would definitely discourage you from using an AI generated resume. Let me see. Oh, wow, there's some really good questions coming up. All right, so let me just go down here. Sir, the other day I was speaking to my manager about how he shortlists resumes. He said the following things he looks for. Resume should be 1 page, but can go up to 2 pages. Resume should narrate a story about you. And 3, it should be clear to read. Okay, so definitely agree with number 3. Definitely helps to have it be clear to read. Number 2, resume should narrate a story about you. Maybe. It depends on the position. Most people are looking for entry level or like a level 2 analyst. For something like that, I don't want to hear a narration. I just want to hear your skills and what you've done with them. Right? I mean, that's really kind of what it is. Because remember, the resume is just about getting to the interview stage, right? In the interview, you can talk a little bit more about you. But at the resume stage, just tell me your skills and what projects you've done. I don't need to know your life story. I just need to know that you're a potential fit, right? So I don't necessarily agree with number 2. Resume should be 1 page. It can go up to 2 pages. You know, that's one I had thought of previously that I didn't mention in my opening note. But yeah, maximum 1 page. I have never read a 2nd page of a resume in my life. I've received multiple page resumes, but I never get beyond the 1st page. Right? So Yeah, so I would say 1 page max. The only time I've read 2 page resumes is when, one, it's at the executive level, and two, it's somebody who's coming in to like be my boss or something, right? So in that scenario, I'm reading it not because I'm going to hire them, but because I'm going to be working with them. So yeah, so that's where you kind of let a 2 page resume slide. But for most positions out there, one is plenty. The second one probably won't even be read. Bongo Padye says, how often is Preston's distribution used in real life problem solving by big companies? Oh, wow. Love the question. Love this question. Okay, so you made me curious. Why did you ask this question? Are you working on something? Or are you just a fan of it? Because I love the Preston distribution. Lots of uses for it. Real life problem solving, there's a couple of use cases out there. So you know what? This is a good question for the chat. So let me open this up to the chat. Let me know if you know of any real life use cases for the Poisson distribution. I know of a couple, and I know that I've used the Poisson distribution to help teach others about data science and statistics. Sometimes you're at a company and they have like an internal blog or like an internal newsletter. I've written internal newsletters about the Poisson distribution. I think I did it back in 2018. Is that right? Maybe like 2018 I did that. I did it around the World Cup because, there is some debate about whether Poisson distribution can be used for soccer scores, right? So I did like a fun article about how you would use the Poisson distribution to predict the winner of the World Cup, right? Of the final match of the World Cup. So little fun things like that, and Poisson distribution is perfect for things like that. But I love the question, Bongo. So let's open it up to the chat. Let me know if you've seen the Poisson distribution used at your company, because I'm curious too. Because like I said, I know of a couple, but I think it could be utilized more than that. But love the question, Bongo. Thanks for joining. Nobody knows S. How does articles show the knowledge of the person than projects? Nobody. I think you wrote this while I was talking about the resume, so I assume you'll be talking. You're doing this in reference to the resumes. And he says, "Hello, sir, Ravindran from India." Well, great, Ravindran. So, how do articles show the knowledge of the person in the project? Well, I think there's a million ways that you can show your knowledge in an article, right? Because in an article, you can talk about, why did you choose this problem? What are some of the creative ways you could solve this problem? These are some ways that I tried that failed, but here's the one that really worked out. And then here's the results from that experiment, and here's how you interpret them, and here's what it means for the greater business problem. There's a million ways to express yourself. But the key there, remember, and just so that we're all clear on this, data science is not like an object or an algorithm. Data science is a process, right? It's a methodology. So articles are excellent for you to be able to show, I am a data scientist and I understand the methodology, and here's how I applied it to problem X. And then you walk people through those different stages, right? So that's where the win comes from articles, to be able to say, here's what I did, right? And here's what the results mean to me. So here's why it's important, Ravindran. It's also important because if you can do that successfully, then the end results don't matter, right? Because if all you list is projects, then they have to be projects that one, they have to appeal to your interviewer, and two, they have to relate to the industry, right? Because if I'm in manufacturing and you give me a financial services project example, I might not care at all, right? But if you can show me an article and a project that you did, then if I can agree with your rationale, like the way you went about it, then the results don't matter. I don't care. I'll still give you a positive view on it, right? We can still disagree on the results, and that's okay, because your rationale was still sound, right? So that's why I think there's like a million more benefits to doing articles and projects, right? Because if you're going to show me your GitHub, one, it's got to relate to me. Two, I have to like it, and three, it has to be 100% correct, right? You got to show it to me in my industry. It's got to be in a language that we use, and I got to agree with the way you went about it. But if you show me an article, then it doesn't have to be about my industry. It just has to show good rationale, and I won't care about the results because it shows me that you know what you're doing with data science and the scientific method, right? So tons of upsides to focusing on articles and expressing yourself in that way. Okay, K. Simran coming in hot with a huge question. What's the next big thing in AI after LLMs? Okay, I can think of a couple, but let me know. Again, great question for the chat. So if you guys want to participate and join in the chat here, what is the next big thing in AI after LLMs? So I'm going to give my quick take on this. I hesitate to do that because I don't want to bias the conversation, right? I, as a data scientist, recognize my own method, and by me talking, it biases the conversation. So I'll tell you two quick things. One, LLMs are just text, right? So I think what you really meant is what's the next big thing in AI after generative text? Well, we still have a lot to conquer in images, and we still have a lot to conquer in terms of video, right? So a lot more to do there in generative AI in those two fields. The second thing I would say is that there's still plenty of work to be done in LLMs. Everything you've seen so far in LLMs is just act one. There's like 10 acts to come still, right? So right now we are using LLMs as they exist. The next stage is to get more into fine tuning. You're gonna see companies get a lot deeper into fine tuning, and to a large degree that's already happening. And third, you're going to see people who start bringing their own LLMs from the ground up, right? Because right now, most people are still kind of using like OpenAI or Claude or whatever, straight out of the box, right? That's not always a great thing, right? Because it means that the LLM has other knowledge in there that your application might not need, right? So there's still a lot meat on the bone there for LLMs. So don't think that LLMs are going anywhere. There's still plenty of things to do with LLMs. Okay, but I'm going to stop there. Great question for the chat. Join in the chat. Let me know. What's the next big thing in AI after LLMs? So that's two questions we have for the chat going right now, okay? What are the Poisson distribution applications you've seen in real life problems? And what is the next big thing in AI after LLMs? Would love to hear your contributions on that, chat. Let me know in the chat. Jacobs Z says, since you talked about projects, what kind of project do you think DS students should focus on? What interests you? Everything is a potential data science project, right? So I always hesitate to give direct answers here because I don't want to take away the opportunity for you guys to be creative on something like that. What interests you? What are the things out there that interest you? Virtually everything has data available for it, right? So you can find the data. So what interests you? And what questions do you have about what interests you? The questions are important because questions are usually a good basis to form a hypothesis, right? You have to think about it a little further, but you can usually get a question out of a hypothesis. You can usually get a hypothesis out of a question, right? And if you have a hypothesis, then you have the start for everything else you need, right? So yeah, so that's what I would tell you. What interests you and what questions do you have about it? If you sit there and think about it long enough and apply some creativity to it, you'll come up with something. Siva says, is there a place for certifications on a resume that of course back up my projects in it? Sure, of course. No, of course you want to include some certifications on there if they're relevant to the job. Where would you put certifications? Personally, I have all of my licenses and certifications at the very bottom of my resume. I don't put them front and center. For me, at the very bottom of my resume is like the foreign languages I speak and my certifications and any conference presentations. Definitely include them on your resume, but I don't see like a big reason to make them prominent in your resume. Okay, Siva, so I hope that helps you. Slide 2017 says, hello, Dennis. I am Siddiqui from Guinea? I really appreciate your time and your efforts. Oh, well, thank you. So nice of you to say that, and welcome from Guinea. I don't think we've had many viewers from that, so good to see you. Thanks for coming. Let me keep on going here. Really great questions today, guys. Loving the questions. What is the importance of cloud knowledge in data science? You guys are coming up with some great questions. Let me take a quick water break. Wonderful questions today. So I've actually thought about this because I've been writing a little bit about this. I have some projects in the background you guys are going to know about soon, but I was actually writing about this. So the way I mostly hear a question like this is people ask me, should I go for an Azure certification or for AWS? So two answers. The first answer is that I don't think there's enough companies out there using both of those platforms that there's no advantage to one or the other. Just pick one and go for it, right? I mean, if you have an AWS, you'll find people looking for AWS. If you have an Azure, you'll find people looking for an Azure. There's no advantage. But I would ask you to think about, why do you need any of those? Remember, there's entire companies and industries that do not use the cloud at all. They do on-premise solutions. They have data centers geographically dispersed all around the world. They don't need a cloud. There's plenty of companies and industries like that. So I say that because, and again, maybe coming back to Siva's earlier question about certifications. Well, what if the company you're applying to has 10 data centers around the world? They're not going to give any weight to your certification, right? They're going to look at your certification and say, yeah, that's great, but what I really need is somebody who knows Linux and can work on premise with a command line interface, right? Azure kind of has a little bit of like that negative tone to it, where when people see Azure, they think that you can only work from a GUI, right? Oh, this person doesn't know CLI. They need a GUI to manage their servers or to manage their databases, right? So, it's kind of a mix. It's something that you have to balance out on your resume to say, yes, I can work with AWS. I have a certification in AWS, but here I also have a year's worth of working with CentOS. So I am completely comfortable working in the command line interface. So think about that also, right? Or we had an example of somebody asking about going to work for Chase. Lots of banking companies do not use cloud, right? Or at least they don't prioritize cloud, right? They'll use it for very, very specific needs or things like that. So you're going to want to balance out your resume to be able to say, yeah, I can work with cloud, or I can work with the command line interface, or I can work with Linux, no problem. Because, that's where, they're going to maybe pick another resume over yours, because they'll say, okay, well, great. AWS means that you're probably not dumb. You probably know what you're doing. But what I really need is somebody who knows Linux. And, maybe that's why they don't call you back, right? So balance it out, okay? It's not always about cloud, all right? Mamoons asks, do you recommend getting MS in data science before having any work experience? Maybe. I always hesitate to give masters advice because I think that's a very personal choice. Some people want to work, some people need to work. So it depends. I personally had a very long gap in between my bachelor's and master's studies. But that's just me. That's just the choice I made because I graduated during a very good job market. I was always making pretty good money basically right as soon as I graduated. So that was my choice. But I could see it both ways. Sometimes it does help to have work experience. Other times it doesn't. Maybe you want the work experience to make sure that data science is for you. Maybe it's not for you, right? You just never know. Kevin, thank you so much for the assist here in helping out Nobody Knows. I think it's relating back to the answer about the projects versus articles. So thank you so much for the assist there, Kevin. Bharath Sai Lingam Pali. Did you tell us where you were from, Bharath? I don't think you did. If you're still joining us, let us know where you're checking in from. Love to hear where everybody's from. Hi, sir. Should I focus more on math while learning about ML models, or just having an intermediate idea of what's happening behind is good enough? I am definitely more for the latter. I think that the level of math that you need in data science in the real world is highly overrated. You're going to be using libraries like 99.9% of the time. So yeah, I would say that if you just have a general idea of what's happening behind, if you understand the theory, then you should be fine with that, right? If anything, I would say that, familiarize yourself more with probabilities, because probabilities, I think, are more important in data science than most of the other math that you hear out there. And whatever you do, make sure you ignore the influencers out there that focus on the math, because I think that's just, it's a negative tone, and quite frankly, I think it's gatekeeping on their part, where everybody overstates the math because they kind of want to scare people, right? But I can assure you, as a working professional in the field, that you will need a lot less math than you think you will. So that's what I would tell you. Danny Ramones says, one question. I don't have a tech degree, but I work with data. Is it a good idea to do a master's in DS or analytics? Not necessarily. It depends on how comfortable you feel with the work you're doing now, Danny. I think there's a lot of value in pursuing, the business degrees or other degrees that are related that are still going to help you in data science. If you feel comfortable studying data science and analytics on your own, which is not impossible, then you are probably better served by communication courses, business courses, finance courses, things along those lines. And Danny, I like the timing of your question because it also ties back to the previous question about math, right? So let's take Bharat's question, right? Bharat asked about the math and machine learning models. And Danny asks about, I work with data now and I kind of like it. Do I also need a master's in it? So the way these two questions are tied together for all of you, and, I think this is really important, guys. Understand that professional data science is about people. It's about people and solving their business problems. Not their algorithmic problems, not their analytics problems, not their math problems, their business problems. That's all they care about. And ultimately, that's kind of like what they're paying you for, right? Because nobody's really going to pay you to talk math to them. Who wants that, right? They're paying you to come in and say, hey, we looked at your sales data. This is the approach we think will work. Here's the experiments we ran, and we think that we can get you 10% increase in sales using a baseline of last year's sales. That's what they want to hear from you, right? And that's it. That's all they want to hear from you. How you got to those conclusions, it could have been an algorithm or it could have been a room full of monkeys. They don't care, right? So you have to be able to focus on that delivery and that level of approach to data science. That's ultimately, again, what they're paying you for, right? And data science is not a theoretical science. It's a practical application of science, right? It's an applied science where you have to go in and say, we collected the data, we ran it through our experiments, not our algorithms, our experiments, and here's what we think we can do for you. So, one, keep the math and code talk to a minimum. And two, you have to be able to meet them at their level as far as talking in business terms, right? So Bharath and Danny, I hope that helped you, because I think your questions are kind of correlated that way. But, that's the way you should be looking at it, because Danny, it sounds like you're thinking about a long-term career in this. So you are best served in your long-term career by understanding more of the business side and how to address those, how to address those people, how to run those meetings, how to present your results. That will get you 10 times further than, you and Bharath sitting down together and learning the latest machine learning, linear algebra applications or whatever, right? Nobody's really paying for that, right? So hope that helps both of you. Great questions, guys. Really love the two questions. Recently, I say a recruiting manager saying to create a GitHub for a portfolio to showcase the projects and display the technologies used and the insights found. What's your thoughts on this? Maybe. I mean, maybe that works for them. But I guess for some companies it would work, sure. I mean, I can only share my experiences and what I've done. Like I said, I've read hundreds of resumes. Like I said, I'll maybe not thousands, but I've read plenty of resumes. And I'm telling you what I've looked for and what causes me to say, okay, yeah, let's call this person for an interview versus, nah, I don't want to see this person, right? So I'm just telling you what I've done, and I've hired dozens of data scientists who've worked for me over the years. And also, I also do like summer intern hiring and stuff like that. So maybe at some companies, sure, but I can only share, what's been my experience. And I can, like I said, I can tell you that I've never ever once checked anybody's GitHub. Okay, so Mosin from YouTube, again, love these comments. Love the little icons there. Mosin says, waiting for the next train and any queuing theory problem. So he provides, you can use the Poisson distribution in any queuing theory problem like waiting for the next train. Okay. I think I agree with that. Chat, what do you guys think? Any other answers out there? I think it's a pretty good explanation. The example I was going to give is that you see Poisson distribution used a lot in traffic planning. You know how like when they make a new road and they're going to make like a dedicated left turn lane or right turn lane depending on the country you live in, and they have like a dedicated like light signal for it. So the question is, how long do you make that lane, right? Do you make it for 2 cars, for 4 cars, or 6 cars? They use the Poisson distribution for that. They'll conduct a traffic study, figure out how many cars usually make the left lane and, in the time period and all that. So I think most, and that goes along with your answer as far as the, the queuing problems, right? So yeah, waiting for the next train could definitely be part of that. So I love the answer, Mosin. If anybody else agrees or disagrees or has other suggestions, let me know. But remember, we're looking for 2 things. We're looking for practical applications of the Poisson distribution. Love that question. Love the Poisson distribution. And second, somebody asked about what is next for AI beyond LLMs, right? So feel free to send in your answers for that. Love those questions. Wasted69 says, sir, please suggest some problem statement to write paper in AI or DS or how to find them. You can find them. Guys, you don't ask me for that. You're missing a perfect opportunity for you to be creative. Why would I want to take away that opportunity from you? This is part of the data science work. Part of the data science work is being able to do that, right? Because guess what? Same thing as we discussed earlier. When you show up on your first day for the actual job, they're going to be looking to you for ideas. They're not going to come to you with ideas. They don't know what data science is, right? They're going to look at you and say, okay, well, we hired you. You've been here for 2 hours. What's your idea? How are you going to help us? So don't miss that opportunity for you to be able to sit with your thoughts, think about what interests you, think about the questions, and questions can lead to hypotheses. And once you have that, you're on your way, right? Because now you can design your experiments, you can execute your experiments, you can interpret the results, all that good stuff, right? But if you're in a position to think about a question like that, I'm going to take it to mean that you have some training behind you already, right? So use your skills, right? Use your skills and think about your own personal interests and go out there and do it, all right? I believe in you. You're going to be just fine, Wasted. Cognitive Science 404 says you always write for the worst skeptic, right? Are you referring to our resume conversations or our articles conversation? I'm assuming you mean the articles because you also ask, where do I publish my work except for ResearchGate? You always write for the worst skeptic? Sure, yeah, that's not a bad rule to follow. For me, I always like I said, for me, my goal in writing is to show the process, right? So those are literally my headings, right? Here's the problem I'm trying to solve. Here's the data I collected. Here's how I went about it. These are the 3 different algorithms that I tried. These are my results. Well, here's the algorithms I tried. Here's my champion algorithm. Here's my results. Here's what the results mean, right? You kind of have to walk people through it. So I guess in a sense, that's the same as a skeptic, where, when I was in college and I was working an internship, I had a boss who told me you have to take them by the hand and guide them step by step, right? You got to walk them step by step. So that's what I do in my work, in my articles. But yeah, writing for the worst skeptic, that could work too. So I like that. Mosin says, I could see Pleasant processes possibly helping. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Cognitive Search 404 did ask us follow-up. That's the one I was looking for. Where do I publish my work? Don't get fancy with it. Put it up on LinkedIn. Put it up on X. Put it up on Medium. Any of those. The point is that you did it. The point is that you got it out there, right? Put it out on LinkedIn and include a link in your resume, or on X. X has really good publishing tools now. They've introduced them in the last 6 months or so. The point is that you get it out there, right? Don't get overly fancy with it. Just put something out there in a public place where it can be accessed quickly by the people reading your resume. Okay, don't overthink that part. Okay, sorry, Mosin. So I could see Pleasant process possibly helping in word frequency prediction. So they may have an application in next word prediction. Yes, but the problem with that is I think there's a lot better ways to do the frequency prediction, right? I mean, even some of the early applications, frequency prediction, like when they were first being explored, I believe it was using Markov chains. Somebody can correct me on it if I'm wrong. But even in early stages, I don't think they were ever used by Pleasant. It was more of the Markov chains, and also something about the Pleasant application there isn't 100% sitting right with me. I just can't put my finger on it. Yeah, I can't put my finger on it, but something about it doesn't feel right. I'm thinking about the different Pleasant rules, and I'm not sure if it fits that. But we can come back to it. Chat, let me know what you think. Okay, nobody knows says, thanks. Mind is joining all the dots of perception of recruiters and data science methodology. My confidence is increasing. Okay. All right. Well, good. Guys, I can only go for another couple of minutes here. Instagram is going to cut me off. I'm going to try to get to some questions on here. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to jump ahead here. I'm going to jump to some of the names that I recognize. So Prince Kara, I know you've been a great supporter. I'd hate to miss your question. How do you coach your juniors, recent graduates, when they start working for you? Aha, great question. And that's a very long question. But the good news is that I'm going to have an answer for you very soon on that. Okay, I'm working on a project. Guys, I have a lot of projects going on in the background that I can't always talk about. But I have a project for you, Prince, that looks very much that is very much along the lines of these questions. But I'm glad that you're thinking about that, and I think you're asking a very key question. So I'm going to try to skip ahead here. Nobody knows says Kevin Benny. Thanks, Kevin. I love it. I love the chat helping each other. Good job, guys. I love it. So Kevin, again, thank you for the assist there. I love people helping each other. Looking ahead here. I'm sorry that I'm going to be cut off here, guys, but Instagram has that rule. Okay. Murad FRD. Murad, I don't think you told us where you're from. Is it true Google fired its Python team? All right, guys. So I know that this went around on social media, I think particularly on X a couple of weeks back. Google does not have a single Python team. All right. Google has how many employees worldwide? They do not have like just one Python function. They have distributed teams all around the world, 10, 20 people each, and so on and so on, right? So when these things happen, people, the people who start spreading stuff like this have never worked in a corporate environment in their entire lives because they've never worked for a large company like that, right? Like there is no single one Google team of 10 Python programs or however many were fired, right? Did they fire a team of Python programmers? Sure, that happens all the time. Probably happens on a daily basis at a place like Google, right? They have like how many offices worldwide? So everybody calm down. Google still uses Python. They still have plenty of Python programmers. This is just one team, and then all the Chicken Littles run around saying, "Oh my gosh, the sky's falling. Google got rid of all their Python programmers." No, they didn't. They just don't have the corporate perspective to understand that you can fire one team and you still have like 40 teams left over, right? So, no, Google did not fire all of its Python programmers. So, everybody calm down. We'll be fine. All right, everybody. I'm sorry that I'm up against the time. Thank you so much for joining. Wonderful questions today. I love the different discussions we had today. But, think about some of the items we talked about. Don't miss opportunities to be creative. Get your resumes out there. Put your technical skills at the top. But most of all, stay positive, stay encouraged. A positive attitude in the job search and in your studies and everything else you do is really important. So I want to thank you all for being with me today. It's summer out there, so try to stay cool. Hope to see you next time every Sunday and Thursdays when I stream. Take care of yourselves, take care of your families, and I'll see you next time.